I've always had this ambivalent relationship to the idea that the work is realist. And I think because I'm invested in the idea that it's figurative sculpture, but it's really based on observation and the question of observation. What is it that is, what is this? Not who is this, but what is this? The deeper you look, the more attentively you look, the more information you gather, really, the more uncertain that object becomes. One of the byproducts is realism, but the motivation in the work is not realism. It's observation. It's the question of perception and what is this as a representation. So this thing, because it's flattened and also the head is tilted, and both down and to the side, just what happens as you move around, with this part coming forward and that receding, this part coming forward as well, chin going in, and it all has to happen in a very limited space, and so there's a lot of distortion. Also, as the head turns, the way it just kind of angles back. So the kind of push and pull of the form is going to be, it's going to rely on, I guess, inventiveness, really. I can't rely too heavily on Murray for that.
Evan Penny's subject is the human subject, the human body, which is an age-old subject in art, perhaps the oldest one that people have attempted to portray. Evan's work tells us something about the human subject today as being maybe more unstable, something more transformative or transformable. And when he skews and stretches and alters the human form in such severe ways, testing the limits of anatomy or exceeding an anatomical possibility, he's telling us something, I think, about how we view the human body and the human subject.
This piece is called El Faux, Libby. Libby is the name of the model who posed for it, a friend of mine. This piece represents about 400 hours with Libby. And the kind of detail you see there is really a detail that really is a byproduct of that process of observation and building a very sort of particular and specific portrait, but also a structure. It's also a progressive compression, and so the nose is about, and face, the part that's on the front, is about 3/4 as deep as it should be. And as you move through the middle, it's about a half, and then it progresses to 1/4, and then, in theory, to flatness, back into the picture plane. So this turned into a pretty massive project. It took well over a year, but it set the foundation for what was to come. I started producing portraits of people who don't exist really within a year or so of the El Faux project, so they were happening concurrently. Another way to look at this sort of question of what's real and what's not, and how do we see each other in real time and space, and how do we imagine ourselves in a photograph or in the media. So it kind of goes back to that question of the assumption that what the camera sees is real, and then we accept that, and of course that assumption is progressively undermined, not just obviously in my work, but I think in our general understanding of how the media works, especially now with the digital, where you don't even need anything to stand in front of the camera.
And the objectness has a realness about it that no image can have. And I think also the way that they're made, that they're made in a very manual manner. There's this incredible refined level of craftsmanship that goes into the making of them. So despite the fact that the image has a digital life as a photograph, and that the photographic referent is very digital. The objects themselves are absolutely handmade.
This is a platinum cured silicone. It's pretty cool. I'm not a manufacturer. I'm not making millions of objects to sell to millions of people. So I don't have to be current in that sense. I don't have to compete. So I suppose if it became clear at a certain point that this exact object could be replicated without human touch, then obviously that would create a crisis in my process. But this exact object isn't even remotely being challenged as an object that could be made without human touch. Basically drawing, and you're just finding, whatever structures you can, and drawing in the essentially what will be the creases or any other kind of detail you want. Can relate to pore structure or wrinkles, or so that you can see was the initial layer. A lot of drawing like that with this instrument. And now what I'm doing is I'm sort of filling in the gaps with what would be the first full coat of this silicone base material. So now I'm sort of going for full coverage. Well, it's a good question. Why would I persist to hand make in a context where you can do quite remarkable things mechanically? It's really that it's something that I've made a commitment to, that I must love doing it.